everyone. Welcome back to She Blurbs podcast. Today's guest is JP McLean. Hi. Welcome to my podcast. Thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I write full time. I live on a tiny little island called Denman Island, which is off the west coast of British Columbia. And it's very small. It's only 20 square miles, 1,200 people, probably more sheep and cows than there are people.
Wow.
But it's a great and rural, lots of sheep, like I said. And so far, I've written 8 books, 1 novella, and several short stories. And every one of them has a supernatural, fantastical, paranormal element to them because that's what I love doing.
That's awesome. So, when did you first realize you wanted to be an author?
Well, I probably always thought it would be a great job, especially as I grew up in Toronto where, snow and slush and ice in the wintertime. And I remember thinking, wouldn't it be nice to just sit home in my jammies all day long and just write and drink coffee and not have to get on a bus? And, but I never thought I'd have an idea big enough. And it wasn't until one winter 10 years ago when I had some time on my hands and I thought, I've been really enjoying urban fantasy and paranormal books. And I thought, I'm going to try my hand at a scene that I have in my head. And the scene is based on dreams that I have of flying.
Oh,
so I wrote the first scene of a woman jumping off a deck and flying down the coast. And I wrote it and it turned out really well. I liked the way it turned out. So then I thought, well, she wouldn't just jump off a deck without knowing she could fly. And if she knew how she could fly, who taught her and how'd that come about? How'd she get the gift of flight? So next thing you know, I kept building the story out and out and out. And next thing you know, I had a book.
Wow. So is it a series or is it just a standalone book?
No, there's a series. There's 7 in that series, and the 8th book that I've written isn't out yet, and it's a start of a brand new series.
Wow. So can you tell our listeners, give a brief summary of all of your novels, all of the series?
Sure. I'll give the broad series overview because there's a lot of books. So it's a story about a secret society of people who can fly. And the protagonist throughout all of the books is a woman named Emmeline Taylor. And when she comes to us in the first book, she doesn't even know that she can fly. She just keeps losing gravity at the most inopportune moment. So it's quite dangerous that she floats off. And she decides she's going to return to her family's cottage on the West Coast, where I live, to learn how to fly or learn how to control this thing. And she makes a colossal mistake, falls from the sky and hurts herself and ends up in the hospital where she meets a doctor. And that doctor just so happens to recognize the second lens in her eyes that marks her as one of them, a flyer. And so he is instrumental in introducing her to a group of local flyers that are all hidden within the society. And it's these groups are called coveys. And they're all over the world, coveys, and they're secret. And so as Emmeline gets indoctrinated into this group of flyers, she realizes that it isn't just about the flying. It isn't all sweetness and light. And in fact, their kind are ruled by a Soviet-style tribunal that is judge, jury, and executioner in the flyer world. And she also learns that flyers have gone missing. So there are some powerful organizations that know about them and are actively hunting them because they want to use their skills. And the series takes Emmeline from naive, not knowing what she is or how to fly, through to the conclusion where the tribunal is threatened and the flyers have to a call to arms, more or less, just to help them survive.
Wow. That sounds like an interesting book. And how many did you say was in the series?
7. There's 7. There's 6 that take the story from point A to point Z. And then I wrote another book called Lover Betrayed. And that book is actually the very first book, but written from a different character's perspective.
Oh, neat.
Yeah,
So
that was
is
fun.
that one going to have a series too, or is it just adding on to it?
That's just adding on to it.
Oh, nice. So can you tell us again what inspired you to write these novels?
Well, I'm inspired by my dreams of flying because I've dreamt of flying since I was a kid. So that was a main influence. And then having read all the paranormal books that I was reading at the time, Charlaine Harris and Diana Gabaldon, Deborah Harkness, J.R. Ward, a lot of Carrie Arthur, a lot of those books kind of inspired me. But I also find inspiration in music. I love a song that makes me cry. Billie Eilish lately is just it's such an emotional trip that I just get excited about sitting down and trying to put some emotion on the page.
Wow. So I do have a question to ask you. It's outside of the questions I was going to ask you. So the main character in your story and like the flyers in your story, are they born into it, or do they like how do they become flyers? Like how does that happen?
So the ones there are two kinds. You can either be born with it, or you can be gifted. And by gifting, it means if somebody is ill or dying and they don't want the gift to die with them, they can give it to somebody in a ritual. But doing that makes them weak and could possibly kill them. So giving the gift to somebody is a very serious affair, and it's documented so that people aren't coerced into it. And that's part of the problem of what's happening with the flyers, because this gift can also be stolen. So if you're gifted with it, the second lens in your eye develops over the course of a couple of days, but you don't come into your ability to fly until you hit puberty.
Wow. That sounds like a really good book. Like I'm getting on interested in it. I'm like I'm definitely going to check those out.
Oh,
So like
good.
what does your family think about your writing?
Well, I think they were really shocked because it wasn't something I did before, but they have been super supportive, unbelievably so, and proud of my work. And they're the first people that run out and buy the books when they come out, and they tell everybody about them. And I thought the proudest moment for me was when I was home one time in Ontario, and I was out with my mom and dad, and I heard my mom, someone said, "Oh, your daughter's here from the coast, and what does she do?" And my mom says, "She's an author." I thought that
I'm
was
really
very,
excited.
it is. It's nice to get recognition from your family.
Yes, definitely. Wow, it's great to have that support though to back you up, to inspire you, and to love what you're doing. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
good. So who are a few of your favorite authors?
Oh, well, I mentioned Charlaine Harris. I love her Sookie Stackhouse, but I've also read a lot of her Midnight Texas and some of her other books. Deborah Harkness, she's got the All Souls trilogy out. I adored that. I read the books. I watched the episodes that are out already. Charlaine, or not Charlaine Harris. Oh, Diana Gabaldon, the Outlanders series. I love those.
Oh,
Yeah, Neil Gaiman. I mean, the list goes on. People. If you can pick one or two or three, the names just keep coming and coming.
yeah. Yes, I agree. So, what was your hardest scene to write and why?
Oh, the hardest scene to write. When you learn about how to write, one of the things that you learn is that you're supposed to put as many obstacles in front of your characters as you can, create as much conflict as you possibly can. And if they love something, you take it away from them and then let them react. So whenever I had to take something away from my characters, and there's some big things that I took away, I would be crying as I was writing the scene. So those scenes would be the hardest for me to write.
That's one of the reasons why I'm so scared to write my own book, because I know I want to write my biography. So I know I'm gonna be crying. So I understand. What advice would you give to help others who want to pursue a writing career?
I think the biggest advice would be to write what you love, because you're going to be spending a lot of time with it, especially if you're writing a book. You're going to be spending a year or more with it if you're as slow as I am. And you'll keep interested in it. You won't lose interest and move on to the next shiny thing. But also start now. Like, don't wait, because if you love it, it will be something you'll do for the rest of your life. I know I won't ever stop writing. It's been such fun. The most fun
Yeah.
I ever have.
I feel like your books can be made into movies. Like, I'm really interested in them. Like, I was really listening, like, with my mouth open and everything. So I feel like it can be made into a movie or like a TV series.
Oh,
Like, I
that
can,
would be fun.
kind of like Firefly. That's a good show. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that would be super fun.
you should pitch that. So, what do you enjoy doing when you're not writing?
I grow fabulous weeds, really big ones. Yep. So I spent a lot of time pulling them out of the garden, and I also enjoy cooking. I really enjoy cooking, and we have a lot of farm stands here because it's rural. There's chicken eggs everywhere, and fresh chicken and fresh pork and beef and lamb, and you name it, you can get it right here on the island. So it's fun to put together a meal with some fresh veggies and some.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
we're having that tonight.
Oh, nice.
Big barbecued salad, just with peppers and onions and zucchini, all grilled on the barbecue and then mixed up with a lot of garlic.
This sounds good. Make me hungry. But I've never met someone that lived like on an actual island. Like, usually you see it on TV, and like, I've never met someone that lives on an actual island. So to get to your house, you actually have to like take a ferry and stuff.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
ferry bound. Yeah, yeah.
oh,
But you can see shore. Like when you're on Denman and you look where the ferry's coming, you can see the landing where it's going to land. The ferry only takes 10 minutes, but it's a ferry.
oh wow. I've never ever spoken to someone that lives on an island. That's pretty cool. So I want to thank you so much, JP, for coming on my show today and allowing me to interview you.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, Brooke. My pleasure.
You have a great day.
You too. Bye now.
Bye. Hey, everyone. I want to thank you so much for listening to my podcast and for listening to my interview with JP. So if you would like to purchase any of her books or see what she's up to, then I have linked her website below. It's tinkering below, so you can go and check out her website and anything she has going on and any new books or anything. I hope you all have a great day, and thank you all for supporting my podcast. Have a great day.